Atlantic's very own cybersecurity architect, instructor, and evangelist, Mr. Eric Anderson. I'm actually really excited about this one. I love all our partners, but this is our own event today. We're not showcasing anyone but our own Atlantic talent. So with that said, Eric, take it away and go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Donna. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session from the engineering side of Atlantic Data Security this time. As Donna said, we're not here to actually present a product. We're here to talk a little bit more frankly and openly. Bit of housekeeping. This is going to be an audio-only presentation. I had some slides and visuals, but they're not really that helpful or necessary, so we opted to skip them and simply make this an eye-to-eye or eye-to-camera chat. One of the benefits to that is you can put something on your screen now that's more appealing than I am, or even put in your earbuds and go walk the dog. You're not going to miss anything. I'll just yap away in your ear. What we're here to talk about today is everyone's favorite cybersecurity acronym, at least to say, and that's SASE. For the unfamiliar, it's actually SASE, just has a cool pronunciation. Our goal today, as we said, isn't to help you achieve full sassiness. We're not here to explain how to make your environment more SASE, nor are we here to implement or sell any specific products. Instead, what we're going to try to do is simply explain the acronym, help you understand maybe what it stands for, what it means, and some of the concepts and components used in achieving it. If you are already familiar, that's fine. We'll hopefully add a little perspective and maybe a little bit of a different angle and some information that you hadn't thought of in the past. And in this journey, you may find that you're already a little sassier than you thought. Also, in order to keep this quick and efficient and digestible by a wide audience, I'm going to keep things relatively basic. We're not going to get into the weeds of Diffie-Hellman. We're not going to discuss all the possible factors of authentication. We're going to keep things at a fairly high and simplistic level. Anyone with a beginning level of understanding of network components should feel right at home. Those with more advanced experience, again, hopefully you pull a little something else out of it. As always, in addition to being a long-standing industry-leading provider of cybersecurity services and solutions, we here at Atlantic Data Security strive to further our clients' security posture through open, honest discussions and education through sessions like this, while trying to keep it fun along the way. I'll talk a little bit more later on about exactly who we are. But for now, with that, let's get sassy. I still laugh at myself when I say it. To get it out of the way, SASE stands for Secure Access Service Edge, which, while correct, doesn't really do a great job of explaining what it is. The term has become so prominent in the industry. We've had so many discussions around it with clients and customers and students, many of which have incomplete or incorrect understandings of what it is. We decided to have this discussion and appeal to a wider audience. I've heard SASE described as a model, concept, framework, even a philosophy, and depending on the context, each of those can be correct. To be clear, what it isn't is a product. SASE is not a new invention with a whole list of well-defined RFCs, algorithms, or pending patents. SASE is really just a combination or repositioning of existing technologies to help solve challenges that have changed or moved a little bit. I find sometimes that taking a step back in history can help us understand exactly what that is, where it came from, and give us that perspective. So take a trip back with me, back when gaining access to digital assets was a physical challenge. Keeping you away from your data was simply a matter of keeping you out of the building. Likewise, when you were in the building, you had pretty much open access to everything you needed. Eventually, it became desirable and possible to access that information from other locations as well. We could go back and start this in the 70s or 80s. We could talk about early online communications. We could talk about slow, noisy modems and accessing services like CompuServe or corporate resources via the likes of Carbon Copy, PC Anywhere, RAS, or NORAD's Whopper computer via an open phone line, but I won't. Instead, we'll kind of jump back a little bit less far to the 90s when the internet as we now know it was truly coming of age. Access was becoming cheap, common, and fast. It was also becoming more business essential. We wanted to access or even needed to access the internet from within our corporate environment. Doing so securely led to the rise of firewalls, typically in an outbound only direction, potentially inbound as well. But those firewalls were in a logical choke point that allowed us to secure traffic fairly easily without having to get into wide deployments. Those firewalls evolved over time into what we might now somewhat controversially refer to as next-gen firewalls, doing more than simply opening ports and access from source IPs, destination IPs, and so forth. We've had to deal with issues of scaling, both in performance and geography. We've had to deal with challenges from encryption. Those are still often dealt with and can be dealt with, at least, with those firewalls. Being a single choke point made things relatively easy, again, from a architectural standpoint. We can deploy DLP, IPS, URL filtering, app classification and control, all of this on a single device, assuming that all of that traffic was from our offices, from our premises. But during that same time that we were becoming more and more dependent on the internet as a resource, we were also finding it to be a valid medium for fast, free, and cheap access from remote locations to our resources in the office. While that became a very quickly adopted and preferred method, outside of modems again, but unto whether it was broadband or dial-up access, we were now requesting and requiring often access from untrusted devices and untrusted locations. We did this via VPN. I know that's become a bit of a slanted or soured term in recent years. We could talk about why another day. But while VPN users could gain access to the resources in the corporate office via the internet and do it securely, it also introduced a new challenge because that device, that user, was also connected to the internet for other reasons and for problematic issues, especially when we enabled or had enabled by default very often split tunneling. They were highly vulnerable to attack or compromise while they were still opening up holes through our firewall to gain their corporate access. This was one of the big challenges for security as we were adopting and adapting and learning to leverage the internet for our increasing needs. There were two general ways, most common ways to combat this. One was to force all of the user's traffic across that VPN client to the corporate office, effectively routing everything to our gateway and then out from there. While this was fine for small scale use and simplified deployments, the challenge was that it taxed our corporate bandwidth as well. We could inspect everything. Our single choke point could address remote users as well because all of their traffic was coming through our gateway and then back out. But it didn't scale well. Another common solution to the problem was to deploy endpoint software. Endpoint stacks that could provide full security, full capabilities on the endpoints grew, emerged, became fairly manageable, but still weren't lightweight. They could be very difficult and heavy to deploy, to manage, and to maintain. They also don't address unmanaged devices or non-corporate devices at all. So, pushing ahead a little bit forward and a little bit more recently, as we're all painfully aware, the last few years, and especially the last year, have dramatically changed things even more. We very rapidly stressed those methods beyond their intentions and beyond their practical limits. First, there was the adoption of cloud computing and transformation or move out of our data centers and into public cloud environments. This meant that our tried and true physical on-prem solutions or choke points wouldn't be as effective as they had been because much of the data wasn't behind them anymore. Then even more recently, there was a massive shift or adoption to expand remote and mobile working. Traditional VPN, especially remote access VPN, showed major limits when organizations needed to expand access to people located everywhere at a scale they hadn't been prepared for. In many cases, they had been using PCs when in the office, and now they had to use personal devices because they didn't have corporate-owned devices at home with them, making installation of endpoint solutions not even an option for many. So all of this is just to illustrate the challenge. The solution can be discussed actually in much less time because oddly enough, while Sassy is one of the best and most popular answers to those challenges, it isn't actually fundamentally a new product or technology, as I touched on earlier. There, I said it. And I will say this, at the risk of oversimplifying, Sassy is just a shift from a corporate on-prem next-gen firewall and VPN gateway to one that's located, scaled, and usually managed in the cloud. Rather than users tunneling all of their traffic to a traditional firewall we have here in the office, Sassy effectively has users tunnel all or most of their traffic to a gateway in the cloud. As simple as that shift sounds, it's truly game-changing. At its most basic, we gain access to all the usual benefits of SaaS, or software as a service, for that gateway, offering ease of implementation, maintenance, increased reliability, and incredible scalability and performance, both in geography and raw compute power. In short, we gain many of the same advantages that are prompting us to shift other traditional resources to the cloud. Additionally, not only do we stop taxing our corporate bandwidth and stretching capacity, but we move our traffic closer to its ultimate destination by directing our users' traffic to and then originating their outbound traffic from the cloud. We get them closer to the cloud-based resources. Some offerings even have direct access to some cloud providers from within that Sassy cloud. The last major benefit I want to highlight is user management and device maintenance. While we're effectively just tunneling the user's traffic to our new cloud-based next-gen gateway using the same core concepts and technologies as remote access VPNs did, we're typically doing so with a much lighter weight, streamlined, sometimes even invisible agent or nano agent or plugin or extension, depending on the vendor. Other than some means of authentication, which would dive down the rabbit hole of a CASB discussion, which is an acronym we'll save for another day, they actually require no user configuration or intervention. They can easily be deployed at large scale, automatically updated, and don't have the complexity or the footprint of traditional endpoint security products. So now that we're tunneling all of our users' traffic to a cloud-based gateway, we can realize a number of other benefits, which may be obvious, but we have to fill a little more time, so I'll elaborate a bit. Due to the performance and scalability of the trusted agent component, inspection of encrypted traffic is much easier than traditional transparent firewalls. This means Sassy solutions can perform more comprehensive and thorough inspection than their predecessors. We can check and protect content for malware, look for data leaking, or even just appropriate use, and enforce things just like we would with our single choke point on the old school gateways, but with that added insight of being able to decrypt the user's traffic legitimately and not trying to fake them out or force it where it wasn't easy. We're also able to compile loads of information and data for use in anything from basic reporting to comprehensive forensic analysis. So if you look at Sassy a certain way and break it down into its core components, it can be a bit underwhelming. Now, that's not to take anything away from vendors providing Sassy solutions. Even a great idea requires execution, and some can do it better than others. Some vendors have built themselves up around completely new Sassy offerings, being very progressive, agile, and focused. Other, sometimes more traditional security vendors have either acquired, developed, retooled, or rebranded existing solutions to address the market's demand for Sassy. Either way, while choices and options and competition are good for most of us, they can also be a little bit overwhelming and lead to confusion. At Atlantic Data Security, in addition to striving to educate our clients on topics and concepts like Sassy, we work our way through the maze of vendors and products for you, understanding the pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, or just simply differentiators. Our end goal is to be able to work for you, our client, to find the best solution for your needs, situation, or preferences. If the overall concept of Sassy makes sense, or if it doesn't, it seems like something you'd like to explore further, simply engage us. Reach out to anyone at ADS, and we'd be happy to discuss ideas and options with you. For those new to us, you should find contact info and links wherever you found this broadcast. For those who already know and work with us, you can reach out to whoever you normally work with. One final note, and a small bit of self-promotion maybe, especially for those who already work with us here at Atlantic Data Security. I want to make sure that you know that much like the Sassy market itself, we've continued to adapt and expand over the years. Also similar to Sassy, we haven't done so by inventing anything all that new, but rather by organically growing, adapting, and evolving. As our clients have come to us asking for services that we hadn't originally planned, we've managed to leverage our exceptional engineering team to develop and deliver new offerings while maintaining a focus on quality of service and expertise. As examples, we've been able to introduce a fully proactive service desk, as well as completely non-product-based consultancy, adept and experienced at providing everything from simple security program development and guidance through compliance operation and preparation. Hopefully that was somewhat informative or enlightening, or at least entertaining. If so, find a way to let us know. More importantly, if there are other topics of interest that you'd like to see broken down, dissected, or otherwise presented, let us know that as well. We'd love more fodder for future events. With that, I'll thank you for your attention and pass things back to Donna.
Eric, thank you so much. I definitely think you helped me achieve full sassiness during that presentation.